Let me jump to another question you
Sure,
had on
go
your
ahead.
list, because I think it's very important to understand advances in neurobiology.
Okay.
Um, there is a research article that you can find by just Googling, in quotes, the price of your soul.
Oh wow.
Yes.
How much
And
is that?
well, it basically a Dr. Gregory Burns
Okay.
did some fMRI scanning of people as they choose between various things. And on some cases, the price of your soul is very modest. If you are an IBM PC person, what Gregory Burns might do is ask you, well, what is the price uh, that I would have to give you in order to declare yourself to be an Apple PC person? And here all you got to do is just sign a piece of paper saying, I am now an Apple PC person. There's no punishment later on if you go out and buy an IBM PC next time around. It's just sort of a statement that you get money for if you're willing to do it. Of course, they're given other propositions like, okay, you believe in God. What price is there for me to get you to sign a statement that God does not exist?
I see the logical transition there.
Yes, and of course, for a deeply believing person, you can pay them $1,000 in many cases. Although, funny thing about it, in my discussion with a group of evangelical preachers, they joked, well, maybe we would pick up the money. Uh,
Really?
yes,
Wow.
they were actually joking about that, saying, who can see this? None of my friends will know about it. I'll just put the money in my pocket. I think they were joking, but on average, this is a non-negotiable price here.
I see. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
and
it's a
basically one of the things that he discovered is that there's two totally independent neural mechanisms that are involved in these two types of decisions.
okay.
We have a theory of mind where we presume that people who make moral, ethical, or other value choices do it with the same type of thinking. They're thinking about the utility of what serves ourselves and the people around us or the wider society. This is not true. What Gregory Burns found was something that he called the deontic system, and that means rule-based.
Okay.
Immanuel Kant had a rule-based notion of moral reasoning that he was deemed to be deontic,
hmm
rule-based, so he's sort of springboarding off of that. My recapitulation of what Gregory Burns has discovered is that this is the tribalism network within our brains. Group values, group nonsense, group craziness, if you will,
Hmm.
comes from this mechanism. If you are a member of a tribe that thinks that global warming is not real, and this has somehow become what group speak, group understanding, well, then you are going to repeat what your group deems to be true. Uh, this is clearly true when in fundamentalist Christian circles when they believe in young Earth creationism.
Right. Or the snakes putting your hand in the
Whatever,
the
yes,
shaking or the any kind of that evangelical um, sort of
where
group practice.
oh
Right.
yeah, that you don't need to go to a hospital. You can just pray to God, and He would deal with any ailment. And if it doesn't work, well, you just don't believe quite good enough. Christian Science is one of the weirder, crazier dimensions of Christian expression. Um, that all comes from the deontic system.
Okay.
And liberals tend to use something that he called the utilitarian circuits. You do precisely what I was saying before. You consider what serves your needs, what contributes to your well-being, and those in your social network or those that you care about in a wider sense of the term. And my argument is that that's the source of the moral dimension. that a valid source. Now,
For atheists or for Christians? Or
for anybody.
Okay.
I mean, this is a philosophical statement.
Okay.
Now, a researcher that I look to explain higher level this type of moral reasoning is Jonathan Haidt. Haidt is the guy's name. He had a 5-factor model where he analyzed the political spectrum. And you're interested in politics, and I think Haidt's research is very relevant to an understanding of that spectrum. Linking back to what I just talked about with neurobiology. Haidt had for liberals actually 2 different criteria that he saw in their choices. Well-being and fairness. He broke that out. Now, I would argue that this represents the utilitarian perspective that is in fact valid. The 3 factors that he saw for so-called conservative thought were respect for authority, in-group, out-group distinctions, and purity. Things like gay sex, gross violation of purity standards, and many Christian...
Not okay for conservatives.
Yes, absolutely. And of course, there's a huge spectrum of what is pure and impure, depending upon exactly what type of conservative group you're a part of. Now, my argument is that this is basically groupthink, tribalism, that simply is reflected in conservatism because there's more tribalistic propaganda on the conservative side, more effective propaganda there.
Right.
And in a different society, the crazy groupthink would be on the left. And the ones that are liberals and trying to reform the lack of reality would be on the political right. But we are in a society where the propaganda that appeals to tribalistic instincts is very much on the conservative right-wing side as it stands.
Against other religions, other cultures. There was an incident at the Ohio State University where one of the students recently, I don't know if you heard about this.
Yes, I did.
He was a Muslim Somali immigrant, and he wasn't able to he felt out of place at the university. He wasn't able to, practice his religion or kind of pray outside, and he thought that, he'd be kind of shunned for doing that. So he went off the rails and linked, all of his hatred to ISIS, and I thought that was convenient for them to claim, we have an ISIS attacker amongst you. But really, this kid was just confused and had nowhere to kind of express his religion. Do you think what do you think about that?
This is obvious tribalism. He was part of the Islamic tribe writ large. Now, in the United States, 99% plus of Muslims are not a threat for terrorism. It's
right.
It's, I think, in some ways more peaceful than Christianity.
Most normal people aren't a threat to terrorism. Most people wouldn't put their life at risk.
Of course not. This is a very, very extreme state. Now, of course, if you look at the history of Christianity, the terrorism, the religious warfare was off the charts. There was one Muslim cleric that said, we don't need a reformation within Islam because you look at what happened in Christianity, 40% of the people in Germany wound up being dead in religious wars that came from that. We don't need to go through that.
Right.
That's a sort of stark notion of a different way of looking at history.